So, this is the second week in a row that my research manager has given me content for the podcast. This time, she sent me an Instagram reel by a creator named The Gordo with a bunch of underscores in the handle. In the video, the guy is standing in his car mixing up what he boldly claims is the drink of the summer. He promises it gives you a quick boost. The recipe: a full cup of ice, a can of watermelon Red Bull, a bottle of fruit punch Electrolit, and to top it all off, a heavy pour of purple Lucas chili powder candy. He mixes it all together, takes a sip, and declares it top tier fire. Now, look, if you are sitting by a pool on a Saturday, make whatever questionable beverage choices you want. I know I do. But if you are a roofer, a landscaper, or an iron worker grinding through a 95-degree afternoon with 80% humidity, chugging a concoction of massive caffeine, synthetic sugars, and chili powder is basically asking your central nervous system to file a formal grievance against you. With heat stress being the #1 outdoor occupational hazard right now, we are going to tear this viral cocktail apart. We are looking at the unvarnished, peer-reviewed science of electrolytes, sugar tonicity, and caffeine to figure out if this drink actually helps a worker or if it actively pushes them toward a medical emergency. It's an all-new Prove It To Me. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Prove It To Me. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Law. Trying to keep a workforce hydrated during the summer is an absolute nightmare, and it is made infinitely worse by viral internet trends. Workers see a guy on Instagram mix an energy drink with a commercial sports beverage and some candy, and suddenly they think they have found the ultimate heat stress hack. They think that because it has the word electrolytes on the bottle. It must be exactly what their body needs. Today, we are putting that viral gas station cocktail on trial. Finding real unbiased science on hydration is surprisingly difficult. Half the literature out there is quietly funded by the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, the Coca-Cola Company, or whatever trendy hydration packet startup just launched on social media. But we managed to dig up 3 excellent peer-reviewed studies that are going to help us dissect this drink ingredient by ingredient. We are going to look at the electrolyte deficit, the hypertonic gut bomb, and the cardiac masking agent. Let's dive in. Let's start with the base of the drink, the Electrolit. Commercial sports drinks have done a phenomenal marketing job convincing the public that one bottle is all you need to conquer the heat. To test this, we are looking at a 2024 study published in the journal Nutrients, titled Personalized Hydration Strategy to Improve Fluid Balance and Intermittent Exercise Performance in the Heat. It was authored by Hai-Cheng Li and a team of researchers, and notably, it was funded by University and National Sports Administration grants in China, not by a beverage corporation. The researchers wanted to know if a personalized hydration strategy was actually better than just letting people drink standard commercial electrolyte beverages whenever they felt thirsty, which is the standard protocol on most job sites. They took 12 healthy participants and put them through a grueling crossover trial. They had them run on a treadmill for 45 minutes, followed by high-intensity intermittent exercise until exhaustion. They did this in 2 different environments, a normal room at 73 degrees Fahrenheit and a hyperthermic room at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. In the control group, participants were given a commercially available electrolyte solution and told to drink ad libitum, meaning drink whenever you feel thirsty. In the personalized group, The researchers measured exactly how much fluid and sodium each participant lost in their sweat and then forced them to drink that exact customized volume at 10-minute intervals. The results completely destroy the idea that you can just hand a worker a bottle of Electrolit and say, drink to thirst. First, the human thirst mechanism is terribly flawed. When the participants in the 95-degree hot room were allowed to drink whenever they felt thirsty, they only drank an average of 369 grams of fluid. The personalized group consumed 831 grams of fluid. Relying on thirst guarantees voluntary dehydration. The participants who drank based on thirst ended up replacing only about 41% of their sweat loss and were actively hypohydrated. But let's talk about the sodium. The researchers noted a massive variance in how much sodium people lose in the heat. In the hot environment, the personalized group required an average of 1,180 milligrams of sodium to offset what they sweat out. The study explicitly notes that standard commercial electrolyte beverages usually contain around 250 to 270 milligrams of sodium per bottle. To actually replace the sodium lost during intense heat exposure, a person would have to drink 3 to 4 bottles of a commercial sports drink in a very short time frame. When the participants moved to the high-intensity exhaustion phase in the 95-degree room, the group that relied on thirst and commercial sports drinks collapsed at an average of 548 seconds. The personalized group lasted 765 seconds. So, back to our Instagram cocktail. The guy thinks he is hacking his hydration by pouring 1 bottle of a commercial electrolyte drink over ice. But that single bottle doesn't even come close to the 1,180 milligrams of sodium his body likely needs if he's sweating outside. He is starting at a massive deficit. But it gets worse, because he didn't just drink a commercial sports drink. He mixed it with a watermelon Red Bull and purple chili powder candy. To understand why this is a catastrophic idea, we need to look at our second study. Published in Nutrients in 2023, it's titled Post-Exercise Rehydration in Athletes, Effects of Sodium and Carbohydrate in Commercial Hydration Beverages. The study compared how well the body actually retains fluid given an oral rehydration solution, which is high in sodium and very low in carbohydrates, about 2.5% sugar, versus a standard sports drink, which is low in sodium and high in carbohydrates, about 6% sugar. They dehydrated 26 athletes by putting them through 90 minutes of interval training, and then had them drink the beverages to replace 100% of their body mass lost. Here is the critical finding. The low-sugar, high-sodium oral rehydration solution suppressed urine production significantly more in the first 60 minutes of recovery, meaning the low-sugar drink provided much faster and more efficient immediate rehydration into the bloodstream. Why? It all comes down to gastric emptying and tonicity. The authors noted that beverage energy density and tonicity dictate how fast fluid leaves your stomach and gets absorbed by your intestines. A little bit of sugar helps pull water and sodium across the intestinal wall. But when a beverage has a very high carbohydrate content, like 10 to 12%, it becomes hypertonic. The concentration of sugar is much higher than your blood. When a hypertonic fluid hits your gut, your body panics. It actually has to draw water out of your vascular space and into your intestinal lumen just to dilute the fluid before it can be absorbed. Let's apply that to the viral cocktail. You are taking a sugary energy drink, mixing it with a sugary commercial sports drink, and dumping literal candy into it. You have just created a massive hypertonic gut bomb. If a worker chugs that drink on their 15-minute shade break, instead of hydrating them, the drink will pull water out of their bloodstream and into their stomach. It will sit there like a brick, sloshing around, delaying absorption. They will go back onto the hot roof with a stomach full of unabsorbed, highly concentrated sugar water, actively worsening their immediate dehydration. So, the worker has a massive sodium deficit, and the sugar has trapped the fluid in their stomach. Now, let's add the final ingredient, the caffeine. Red Bull is famous for giving you wings. On a hot job site, it's more likely to give you an ambulance ride. To prove it, we are looking at our third study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise in 2026. The title is Caffeine Increases Core Temperature Without Altering Markers of Kidney or Gut Injury After Physical Work in the Heat in Caffeine-Habituated Adults. The researchers took 14 active adults who already regularly consumed caffeine, gave them a heavy dose of it, and put them in a 95-degree heat chamber for 2 hours of walking and box lifting. Now, if you work for an energy drink company, you might point out that the study found caffeine didn't significantly worsen short-term kidney injury or endotoxemia in that 2-hour window. You might also point out that the diuretic effect of caffeine was blunted by the exercise, so they didn't just piss out all their fluids. But that completely ignores the two actual dangers the researchers did find. First, cardiovascular overdrive. Caffeine ingestion significantly increased peak core body temperature. It also forced the heart to work much harder. Participants in the caffeine group experienced a significantly higher peak heart rate, averaging about 9 beats per minute higher, as well as elevated systolic and diastolic blood pressure throughout the work period. When a worker is in the heat, their body pumps massive amounts of blood to the skin's surface to release heat. This drops blood pressure, forcing the heart to beat much faster just to keep them standing upright. If you dump 150 milligrams of caffeine from a Red Bull on top of that, you are pouring gasoline on a heart rate that is already redlining. Second, the masking of fatigue. Despite having objectively higher core temperatures and working harder cardiovascularly, the caffeine group did not report feeling any hotter, nor did they report a higher rating of perceived exertion. The authors explicitly warn that this impaired perception of heat strain could put workers at an elevated risk for heat illness. On a job site in July, fatigue is not an inconvenience. It is a critical biological warning light. It is your body saying, I am overheating, you need to stop moving. Caffeine blocks the adenosine receptors in the brain, unplugging that warning light. The worker gets the quick boost the Instagram guy promised, but they are pushing their core body temperature higher and higher without realizing it. They won't initiate the cooling behaviors, like taking a break or seeking shade, because they simply don't realize how hot they actually are. And remember, this study only looked at young, healthy individuals over a 2-hour period. Put this viral cocktail into the hands of a 55-year-old worker with borderline high blood pressure during an 8-hour shift, and you have a recipe for a catastrophic cardiac event. All right, let's bring this all together. What do we actually do with this information? How do we protect our workforce from toxic viral trends? Number 1, banish the drink to thirst policy. The science is settled. If you rely on your workers' thirst mechanisms, they will voluntarily dehydrate themselves. You need to institute programmed drinking. Supervisors must mandate water and electrolyte breaks at specific intervals, and the volume needs to be dictated by the heat index and exertion level, not by how thirsty the crew feels. Number 2, educate your crews on tonicity and sugar. Your workers don't need a medical degree, but they need to understand that sugar slows down hydration. You have to explain to them that energy drinks and massive sugar bombs will trap water in their stomachs and actively pull fluid out of their blood. Provide low sugar, high sodium oral rehydration solutions on the job site for immediate absorption. and tell them to save the heavy sports drinks and sodas for when they're sitting on the couch in the air conditioning. Number 3, treat caffeine as a hazard in the heat. You can't ban coffee, but you absolutely need to educate your workforce on the masking effects of caffeine. They need to know that just because the Red Bull makes them feel energized, their core temperature is still rising, and their heart is working overtime. During extreme heat warnings, supervisors should actively monitor the consumption of heavy energy drinks on the site. Now, that is going to wrap it up for this episode. I want to thank my research manager again for sending me that Instagram reel, even if it did raise my own blood pressure just watching it. I'll link all 3 of the peer-reviewed studies in the show notes so you can dig into the data, the methodology, and the physiology yourself. If you got something out of today's conversation, please take a second to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It truly is the best way to help other safety professionals find the show and keep our industry informed with real data. If you see another crazy safety hack on social media, or if you just want to argue with my take on sports drinks, shoot me an email at contact@proveitpod.com. Stay safe, ditch the sugar bombs, trust the science, and I'll catch you on the next one. Prove It To Me is produced by me, Matt Law. Original music by Wes London. You can find this podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Like what you've heard so far? Please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Got questions about what we talked about or research that you want to share? Send an email to contact@proveitpod.com. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the official position, opinion, or strategies of their employers or companies. Examples of research and data analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based on very limited, often single use case, and sometimes dated information. Assumptions made within this discussion about research and data analyses are not necessarily representative of the position of the host, the guests, or their employers or companies. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast. The presentation of the content by the guests does not necessarily constitute an active endorsement of the content by the host.